Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport in multiplayer in Asphalt 9 at max with just one epic away from being fully golden. Although frankly, the handling doesn't really need it. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, check out the Purple Team Discord, link will be in the description, and enjoy the video. So this is the last of my small series of cars that got nerfed or buffed in the previous update, with the other two being the buffed Sin R1 in Nitro especially, and the slightly buffed Ford GT. Now, this car was the one that was nerfed, and the reason for that was GameLaw finally caught on to the fact that this car was just being really overplayed in multiplayer. Like, you go into multiplayer in Gold League and at least half the cars in every race would be Corvettes. And, I mean, there was a pretty good reason for that. It was because it was a very easy car to drive, and not terribly difficult to get either. And so I can understand why a lot of the people that got it, who maybe were not accustomed to driving more difficult cars, would go for this one in multiplayer. But the thing was, it definitely reduced variety in the multiplayer seasons, and that was a bit annoying to some people. If you'll go on the Asphalt 9 subreddit in particular, you will see that a lot of people on there are not too keen on this car, and that's a bit of an understatement. It has always been known for being that car that touch drive players go to a lot of the time, just because it's able to keep up speed without having to use a whole lot of nitro and stuff like that, making it easier for people who use touch drive to win races. And the nerf did not do too much to it, except for reducing its top speed by 3 miles per hour, or about 5 or so kilometers per hour. Now it goes 214 miles per hour instead of 217, and you can kind of see where they were going with this. They were hoping that by making the car even slower, people would realize, hey, my car just really isn't fast enough, even though it's so agile, and then they'd start using maybe a few other things that they might not have otherwise. And to some extent, that has worked. I haven't noticed as many of these cars in multiplayer, but there has been an interesting little possible side effect. I don't know, there are probably other reasons for this as well, but the Huracan now is become like the most popular car in Gold League for multiplayer, and even in Platinum League as well, it's super popular, because it's kind of like an upgraded version of the Corvette, and it wasn't nerfed, and I don't expect it to be, nor do I really hope it is, because it's a really good car for events and multiplayer, and I think a lot of people would be very unhappy if they did nerf it. This car, on the other hand, I can rather understand it. And in recent months, this car hasn't been a king of events anyway, so there wasn't really much detriment to it there. Now, all that being said, with this car's nerf, with it becoming slightly less popular in multiplayer, it still is very popular in multiplayer. Don't be fooled by, like, it's gone away or whatever. It has not. There's still a ton in the races. Like you can see, there's 3 in these races. Before the nerf, there probably would have been 5. And that's because people just really like these extremely agile and everything cars. And something I don't quite understand about all this, or maybe GameLoft doesn't understand it, I'm not sure, but one reason that people like these cars so much is not just because they're easy to drive, but they are legitimately good cars on tracks like Osaka or the Caribbean, which are the 2 most recent tracks that GameLoft has added to the game. So if they really want those harder to drive cars but better on some longer tracks to become more prevalent, GameLoft should add more tracks that are more top speed oriented, like the Himalayas and a few of the other tracks in the game, so that people will have less of a chance to get really high in leagues or whatever easily just by spamming the Corvette. Because right now, honestly, even with the nerf, that's still doing decently, because you can see right here, both me and this Corvette here are cruising along in 1st and 2nd place, with everybody else decently far behind. There is someone who's catching up to us right there, but we're just leaving most people in the dust, and that's what happens. I think people try those harder to drive cars, and they realize, hey, this is not working out so well, and then they just go back to their Corvette without really practicing in that car when it would end up being better overall. So if you're a player that likes using cars like the Corvette and the Huracan, the DS E10s all the time in multiplayer, they're fine cars, sure, but I would definitely recommend try giving some of the harder to drive cars a shot if you have them at higher stars, perhaps, that you might not have expected would be good multiplayer cars, and you might just be surprised surprised. If you keep practicing in them, you will find that oftentimes a lot of them are even better than, say, the Corvette and perhaps even the Huracan in some cases. Now, you will find videos about a lot of those cars up on my channel, because that is one thing that I have tried to do, is show people that a huge variety of cars are usable in multiplayer and not just the few that we see on a regular basis. After a bit of a close battle with this Huracan in the beginning, we finally pull away from him around some of those harder turns. Now, one thing that people don't usually think about when they talk about the Corvette is that its acceleration is not all that good. People always talk about its low top speed being its biggest weakness, which I would say it definitely is, but that low acceleration can also be a problem at the very beginning of races. Now, the reason this usually doesn't come into play is with the car's extremely strong nitro and low top speed to begin with, it never feels like it takes a long time to reach its top speed. That's just why cars like the Huracan and a lot of other cars that you might not think of as being very agile will pull ahead of this car at the beginning of races and perhaps after some turns. Only though if they have enough nitro to maintain that acceleration. That is one thing this car does very good at. While it may not have the best acceleration, it certainly has the nitro to maintain what it has for a very long period of time. You can see that at the beginning of this race here on those ramps back there, a lot of cars run out of nitro midway up some of those ramps and they don't have it in the air, but this car just keeps on powering through to get to its highest airspeed rather quickly, which, if you didn't know, increases the car's maximum speed to up to 33% higher than what it is on the ground. So while the top speed and the acceleration of the Corvette are not very good, the nitro efficiency and the handling are some of the best in the game. So this is one of those cars that has many of its stats being very extreme in one direction or another. There are some other cars like that in the game as well, so I'm kind of interested to know, do you guys prefer ones like these that have really good stats in some areas, but perhaps not so great ones in some others? Or would you rather have a more well-rounded car that has pretty good stats in all areas, if not the very best in any of them, but still being pretty good in all of them? A car like the Rimac C2 at the top of S-Class comes to mind. That's why it oftentimes does extremely well in multiplayer, more so than the Jesko, because while it doesn't have that extreme top speed, all of its other stats are better than the Jesko's, and overall it can just be quite possibly more reliable. Now, about the Jesko Grand Prix, I put a video up about that a few days ago. If you would like to check that out, just some general tips of how I think it would be best to go about that event to have the best chance of getting the car. Now, I am currently, last time I checked at least, approximately tied for third position, with both me and someone else having 65 rating and one other person having 70, and then the top two people have like 80 and 85 or something like that. I think that was before the third round started. But anyway, what I've noticed is that there aren't really people that are just really pulling away and always getting the top times in these. I mean, yes, there's some that are generally getting higher, but not one person is always getting the top one every time. I think the person who got top one in the second round got like 7th or 6th in the first round. And so because of things going all over the place like that, I think that it will be a very competitive race, honestly, to get to that third place position, which is where people are truly going to be aiming for, because below that you just get packs, which give you a chance of getting the car. And although you get many packs if you say you come in 4th or whatever in tier 2, I can imagine that given that the Jesko's the king of the game, Gameloft probably would not make that drop rate very high. So I have put, as you saw in that video, 9,000 tokens into getting more blueprints for that car. I spent 15,000 tokens in the special event for it. That accounts for a total of 24,000 tokens spent for a car which I do not currently own. So you might be able to imagine I'm definitely going to be trying my best in this event, and hopefully I will have a Jesko at the end of it to show to you guys. But as I am not going to be able to do any more than 3-star the car, I'll definitely have to be at the top of my game, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So far, I haven't seen anybody in my tier, which is a tier 2 bracket, get to 4 stars. Hopefully it will stay that way, because it is 60 blueprints from 3 stars to 4 stars, and on average that would be another 9,000 tokens, so I think I've got a pretty good shot. We'll see. Now for a quick general review of this car. Top speed and acceleration, not good. Handling and nitro, good. Overrated still? Yes it is. Thank you all for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.